Will Lucas here, Black Tech, Green Money. So good to be with you guys again. Bringing you another remarkable founder here. Tade Oyerinde is an education entrepreneur serving as chancellor at Campus EDU. More than a decade of experience using technology to solve a variety of challenges in the higher education system. Campus is on a mission to maximize access to world-class education. It's a new kind of college. Campus offers accredited career focused degree programs to kickstart your education. These are professors who also teach at top ranked colleges. They provide live classes. It's fully online. Welcome, Tade.
Thanks for having me, Will.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here. And in advance, like, thank you for what you do. We've had so many conversations in our social discourse about like access to really high quality education. How do you define world class education, and what does it mean in a community college context?
Yeah, to me, world-class education is first about helping students identify, what is my purpose? What did God, or as Gen Z likes to say, the universe, put me on this planet to go do? Which we define specifically as what's at the intersection of what you're good at, something that's always just come a little bit easier to you than for other people, what you're passionate about, and what the world is willing to pay you for. That's your purpose. So first thing we do is we help students define that, understand that, and a lot of times they have no idea the full menu of options. So we expand their consciousness in that way, and then we help you get the skills and the knowledge and the network to make that purpose your life's work. And so that's what world class education means for us at campus. Specifically, you got to inspire the students, and so we hire all of our faculty as part-time instructors with us. They're also full-time instructors at other, at top 50 universities in the country: Princeton, Stanford, Howard, Morehouse. These are great schools, and it's not just because they're great and really intelligent faculty, but it's also because they have a unique ability to inspire students. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's what it's really about. It's about helping students identify their purpose, inspiring them to believe in themselves, and then getting them the skills, the network, and the knowledge to make their purpose their life's work.
So, getting in the door at a university or a college is one thing, getting access is one thing, completing is a completely separate thing. What systemically do you find is responsible for low completion rates in our community?
Yeah, I mean it's there's certainly several factors. I think it's like some in some level part of this is like a gym membership. It's like everybody wants to be the kind of person who goes to the gym, and so they get a membership. But sometimes actually leveraging using that gym membership consistently, putting in the work is a lot more challenging. And so sometimes you sign up and you're feeling pumped, but actually keeping that motivation all the way through is a challenge. And so that's, I think, a big part of it. And then life gets in the way. you know uh, Education at the college level is a multi-year investment,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of folks struggle to make medium and long-term strategies as opposed to just optimizing for the short term. And so a typical thing we see, a lot of two-year college students in particular, who are 80% of whom are working whilst in school, is this: students will be working at Chipotle, and it works with the class times, but then Walmart offers them an additional $1 an hour, and they
Yeah,
drop out of
yeah.
school to go take that new job. And it's like, our job as educators has to be to remind them, no, no, no. Hey, student Will, like, what did you tell me on first day at orientation? You told me you want to be X. You
Yeah.
want to make this dream come true. Is leaving Chipotle for Walmart for $1 more an hour and dropping out of school going to get you closer to or further from your own stated career and life goal? And then you have to remind the students of that. And then what you'll see is when you just have somebody there to do that over and over and over, the students will actually, they'll get it, and they'll make the right choices. So what we do is we make sure that for every 50 students who enrolls at campus, there's a success coach who is there to do that. This is not just an academic advisor who's there to tell you what classes to take. No, it's like this person is paid. Like, their literal job is to make sure that all 50 of their kids graduate.
Yeah.
And so they're constantly, kind of like my Nigerian mom. They'll kick your ass when you're slacking, and there'll be a shoulder to cry on when you get knocked down, and otherwise support you all the way to graduation.
How do you reconsider the role or reimagine the role of faculty compared to traditional institutions?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think, as I said, like, to start, faculty have to inspire. So we don't hire, boring, like, just like like uninspirational faculty. We like to get hired at campus. Yes, you have to be from a top, reputable institution, but you also have to be charismatic, engaging, exciting. You just be passionate about what you're teaching, because students can, they can feed off of that, and it actually ends up inspiring and motivating them, and then improving their outcomes. So to me, that's like certainly one way in which our faculty are better than the average faculty, even at elite universities across the country. I think number two is our faculty tend to genuinely want to teach. In a lot of universities, many of the faculty, they want to do research, right? They don't actually want to teach. They have to teach in some cases. Maybe they're on the path to tenure, and so they have to, do whatever is going to help them get, that tenure track job, or get tenured, and so they're required to teach. But we actually only hire faculty who want to teach. They're not doing research, they're not trying to get tenure. They're just here because they love teaching. And so I think those are probably the two things that our faculty do that distinguish them from, I think, faculty at even other top universities.
I think about, when I see, smart, intelligent, passionate people like you. And I guess my question is like, you could have done a lot of things with your skill and ambition. Why did you choose education to work on?
Naivete, accidentally, um, and brainwashing. So, no, look, I think, when you're a kid, you don't realize these things, but now looking back, it's kind of obvious. My paternal grandfather was a college dean. My maternal grandfather was a high school principal. My mother got a PhD in education, homeschooled my siblings and me, and then it became a college dean. And my older sister, is a professor. My father started a nursing school when I was 12, and sort of my brother and I used to go around and pass out flyers to all the churches Sunday morning to get people to go to the nursing school. So, I think sort of in hindsight, everything was like kind of forcing me to think about education my entire life. And my mother, in particular, used my brother and I and my older sister, but my brother and I are identical twins. So I think it was an interesting sort of A/B test, as sort of guinea pigs for different pedagogical learning modalities, different learning techniques, spaced repetition, things like this. And so I guess I've always sort of been brainwashed at a deep level to think about how can education work, how can it be better, how can we make it work for more people. And so I think that's probably like deep in my core. And then I think the accidental bit is just, I really, I didn't plan to be an education entrepreneur or to work in this space. I actually went to university to study aerospace engineering. I started flying planes. I was going to be a pilot when I was 12. So that was my plan. And, and then, I think what's the quote? Everyone's got a plan until they're punched in the face or something
Right,
like that.
right,
And
right.
that's how these things go.
Yeah. You talked about your previous, and just now you talked about your previous track, like where you thought you were going to be, lending your talents. But you're now leading a company, an organization, an effort. How did you learn to lead, and particularly lead people and lead teams? Like, how did you learn to not, theoretically, but to actually bring people together for a common purpose or
Yeah,
goal?
that's a great question. I'm not sure that I don't think I've mastered leadership. Quite frankly, I'm not passionate about, just leading in an abstract sense. I'm passionate about solving this problem for our country. I think, a lot of people think about education in like a, oh, education kind of way. I sort of think about it, if you know what I mean. I think about it almost as like an existential problem for the country to solve. I think America is like, we've sold our country rightfully as the land of opportunity, and it's supposed to be a place where it doesn't matter how you were born or the conditions of your birth economically, parentally. If you work hard, you put in the work, you're going to be able to build a great life here. And I think over the last 30, 40 years, I think a lot of people feel that's just not true anymore. And I think a big part of that is the student loan crisis. I mean, kids are graduating today, 200K in debt. You're starting life in the red, negative 200K. And then you're going to spend the next decade plus climbing out. You can't buy a home. You feel like you can't afford to take any risks, like start a business. Many people, like a lot of my age mates, are saying they don't feel like they can have more than one kid, if any kids at
Yeah,
all, because
yeah.
they can afford them. I mean, I think it's an absolute crisis. I think we have to actually solve this. People have to be able to get a home. by 27, 28, if you're working hard, like you should have buy a home, right? You shouldn't have any debt to get a great education to launch your career. So like to me, this is what inspires me, and this is what I get up every single day trying to solve. This is what I spent my 20s and I will spend all my 30s tackling at least. And so I don't think I have formal leadership training in any traditional sense. I think people I found that I think some of the smartest, most hardworking people are attracted to passion. And I think that's why people join campus, we're about 300 people today. And I think they're attracted to my passion. They know it's genuine. They know that I'm obsessed with this issue. I think people are attracted to people who are really, really freaking passionate and they want to work with people who are true believers. And so I think that's what enables me to be a good leader. I don't think that I'm necessarily qualified to like, you know, lead a sports team. Like, I don't know that I could be, the coach of the, Atlanta Falcons. Like, I
Yeah.
used to love football a lot. I still like it, but it's not like I'm not going to come out there every single day in, day out, like Coach Saban would or something like that, motivating the guys, because that's not my passion. But I can lead people to go and solve this big problem for our country in education and access to world-class education because people can literally see that, I care about this more than most people care about anything. So I think that's how I think about leadership.
Yeah, I mean, in starting a company, an organization, an institution in this respect, like, particularly because you weren't setting out on a journey to be a founder, an entrepreneur, at what point did you realize, or at what happened that made you realize, like, oh crap, I'm the CEO, like I'm the chancellor, like whether or not we keep going or stop is on me. Like, what happened when that moment hit you?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. Like like in the first 4 years of the company, it was like kind of just me and the homies. I was just, recruiting, friends of friends, people I'd known through the internet to work on, building software. We started originally just building online learning software. I think the moment where I realized, no, no, like on top of actually doing things, there is like a specific leadership role. I think that moment was when we acquired this college in Sacramento. It was called MTI College. And, it was the first time, I'd really sat down with folks who dedicated 30 years of their life to something. There are people who'd worked at MTI College for more than 30 years. And I had to explain to them my vision and why I thought campus and rebranding the institution as campus and rethinking the way we were executing on certain strategies. Keeping the same original mission but executing a completely different strategy was the right thing for the institution. And that was when I was like, okay, there's a real job here to motivate, to inspire my staff, and to lead them and to sort of be the kind of person that they want to follow. Prior to that, it was like, yo, guys, we just got to get this shit out. Like, let's build. No, no, no.
Yeah, yeah,
Professors are using the software, they're complaining, it's buggy. No, we can't have it. It was just like putting out fires left and right with the passion. I think, after we acquired the college, it was like, there's actually like a real responsibility to be a leader, not just the person who's pushing everything with pure passion alone.
yeah. What I'm curious on what excites you most about the role AI can play in helping to scale access to high quality education.
Well, you just said it. Scale to me is what's really cool. I'll give you an example. So for every, as I said earlier, for every 50 students we enroll, we hire a success coach. This is somebody who is there to motivate the student, who's there to be their point of contact if the student has any issue, right? If the student's feeling depressed or if the student's dealing with any life issue, the coach is their first point of contact to help them navigate whatever they're going through. And so we have an office in Atlanta. We have over 100 people there now. They're our student impact hub, and their job is to just work students through all these issues, between all these barriers, around or over these barriers, between first day of classes and graduation. And so when you have a lot of people, interacting with students, you're responsible as an institution for making sure those interactions are positive. And now we're not, just a random bank. We call 1-800 and then we're going to have a brief survey on how your call went. No, no, no. Like, we want this to be awesome. So it's not a brief survey. It's like we actually need to be responsible for making sure every single person on the phone with students or interacting with students is ready to go. And so, we have a person who just used to listen to 10% of all interactions with students and just grade them and then give feedback, or God forbid something bad happened, escalate that. But generally, it's like, giving feedback and helping these student impact people be better at their work. Now AI can do it in a way that's more privacy preserving and more efficient and cheaper and better. So it's like okay, you can just send a transcript of a call to an LLM. If there was a flagged issue, profanity was used or whatever, you have a list of things you check for, then a human actually looks at it. If not, then no human ever sees it. So you're improving privacy, and then you can scale that up. We're doing it now for all of our interactions, whereas we could only do it for 5 to 15%, usually around 10% of the interactions before. So I think AI can make us way more efficient at enhancing the quality of our service. That's number one. Number two is AI should be able to do things that computers are good at and humans hate doing, and let humans do things that humans are great at doing and computers can't do. So, for example, again, with our faculty, I've said it twice already, their job is to inspire. Do professors from Princeton love inspiring students about what they're passionate about, what their area of expertise is? Yeah. Do they like grading homework repetitively? No, they don't. They don't like grading homework repetitively. So, okay, can a professor set a grading rubric that an AI executes and automates a lot of the grading? Right? Yes, you can do that a lot of times. And so there's so many processes. That's just one example, that AI will be able to do that will free up our people to spend more time with students, like actually interfacing with students and not doing back office processes. And then lastly, um, you know, I think yeah, the cool thing about campus, one of the unique things about campus is that it's a live online learning experience. So, just like you and I are meeting face to face, that's how our students meet the faculty, for 12 hours a week. It's intense. It's awesome. Now, the annoying thing though is that after class ends, right now, there's no, if you get stuck on a problem, you're working on in your homework, or you're studying for an exam and you're confused, maybe you have to wait for the next office hours to show up, or schedule a tutoring session, but that could be 2 days out. With AI, I think we're going to be able to, in the next 6 to 12 months, have every single student have on demand world class tutoring, on demand world class study buddy, on demand homework help. And I think that's going to be a game changer for both our students and I think broadly for higher education in general.
About 10 years ago or so, there was this big uncollege movement where people started to challenge the value of
I remember.
college education. Yeah. And this was around the time where I don't remember if we were coming out or if we were going into like the MOOCs, like the massive open online college, season that we were in. And you know, people have. My point is like people have taken these sorts of challenges on before, and either there's regulatory or bureaucratic or just pure like success rate. Like there's reasons it hasn't worked in trying to reimagine college and university experiences. Like, have you faced as like the biggest regulatory or bureaucratic reasons that cause challenges to organizations like yours?
First of all, I'm just going to say it's refreshing to talk to a storyteller, a journalist who's gone that deep on the space. It's pretty cool. Yeah, but we're not the first, second, or third to try and tackle the problem of access to world-class education in the country. I think a lot of the prior efforts, and I studied all of them before we got started with campus, as any wise person will do, stalled largely in part because they didn't have a thoughtful solution to the money problem. And what that means is specifically outside of basically India and China, the way that higher education is largely paid for is through state subsidies. The government subsidizes or outright pays for the vast majority of undergraduate education, both in the US and Europe. That's the core model. And so if you don't have a way for students to be able to take your programs through these state subsidies that they're entitled to by being Americans, like in our case, it's the Pell Grant. It's $11,000 a year for 6 years. Yeah, it's a beautiful, amazing asset that changes millions of lives every year. And if you don't know how to access that, then your uncollege, your disruptive MOOC, whatever it is just not going to work. It's not going to be successful because that's how most students go to college. We were very thoughtful about that from day one. Our motto is FUCK student debt. We did not want to add one. I don't know if I can curse here.
Yeah, you get it.
We did not want to add $1 to the
Yeah.
pile of student loan debt in this country, and we haven't. Of our about 2,600 students today, not a single one of them, of our online students has taken $1 in student loan debt, and that's super key for me. So it's all Pell Grant funded, or the students, pay out of pocket if they're affluent and they can afford to do so. And so basically, that's the core. I think that a lot of the people come before failed at. The second piece, that's probably a little bit less core, I think that a lot of folks failed at is um, people want college degrees. I think it's like it's all these Ivy League graduates in Silicon Valley who don't know regular people in Atlanta, in Pittsburgh, in Detroit, in rural America, like just regular people. And they're like, nobody wants college. And it's like, bro, are you kidding me? Like there's millions of kids every year who would be the first in their family to go to college, and they just want the pride of being able to say, I'm a college kid. First of all, not even a graduate, I'm just a college kid.
Yeah.
There's millions of kids in middle income high schools and low income high schools all over the country who senior year want to wear that hoodie of a college they got admitted to, even if they're not even going. They just want to wear that for pride. Like, and these Silicon Valley elites, they didn't necessarily understand that. In Silicon Valley, we have this myth of the college dropout, of which I am one. I did 3 years in aerospace and dropped out, but so I understand that. But like, they have this myth of the college dropout. It's like Silicon Valley only invests in college dropouts who drop out of elite schools. Nobody's investing in like community college dropouts in Silicon Valley. Like so college actually is a really valuable thing, both in terms of the confidence that it bestows upon the people who complete it, and then of course the economic payoff. If you get a bachelor's degree, you're going to earn $1 million more over the course of your life than someone with just a high school diploma. If you get an associate's degree, you earn 500,000 more over the course of your life. So Americans know this. Most people recognize this, and so they actually want a degree. So what they don't want is the debt. What they don't want is the stupid, nonsense theoretical education as opposed to practical, real world skills. What they
Mhm.
don't want is a system that treats them like crap and says, "Oh, you're one day late to register. Sorry, wait till next fall to start." Like it's all these like really really silly, sort of idiosyncrasies in our higher education system that no other service of this level of importance has. Like you're telling me I can't take the class I need to graduate because it's full, so you make me take an extra semester just waiting around on camp, like ridiculous stuff that students have to deal with. And I think that's what folks actually don't want. And so for us, it was like, how can we solve the debt problem, right? So that students don't have to take on loans. And that was by figuring out a business model that worked where the tuition is priced below the Pell Grant. Number one. Number two, how do we make sure the quality is excellent? You're not learning nonsense that's not actually going to prepare you to be successful. You're learning crucial things. For example, if you're taking our business classes, you're learning how to negotiate. I've hired a lot of smart people out of the elite schools in this country. Many of them are business majors. Many of them don't know how to negotiate. There's like a contractor here to fix the window, and the contractor's trying to negotiate, and they're being all friendly with them. I'm like, this is the contractor. He's going to take you for a ride. You better take that smile off your face and act like you're about to walk out the room. Like, these are things that a kid in the South Side of Chicago knows by age 11. They know how to posture, they know how to communicate with the body language and the tone, the right things they need to communicate to get what they need to get done, right? That kids coming from the elite business schools in this country may not even know. And so campus graduates are equipped. If you're getting one of my business graduates, good luck if you're sitting across from them on a negotiation table. They know how to read your face, their body language. They're going to make you sweat, right? And that's what high quality education is about, that students are actually looking for, not just theoretical nonsense, practical skills. And then lastly, we treat students like customers. They are paying customers. It's not sink or swim. It's all up to you. No, no, no. How can we help you be successful in life? How can we help you create the life that you want for yourself? That's our entire approach to students. So if you need a class to graduate, I don't care if you're the only kid who needs it. We're hiring a professor to teach that class,
Yeah.
right? If you need a laptop, great. We give free laptops to 78% of our students. Cool, we got it. If you need Wi-Fi at home, we give free Wi-Fi to almost 70% of our students. Free Wi-Fi, a Wi-Fi dongle, T-Mobile or Verizon. Let's go. Like, what do you need to be successful as our customer is our general approach. And that's, so I think when you solve those three things, when you solve the debt problem, when you solve the quality problem, and you solve the like, sort of customer centricness problem or centricity problem, then I think actually everyone wants college. Who doesn't want to be a college kid? Who doesn't want to graduate? Let's go.
Yeah. And part of the thing that I would love for you to touch on is, yeah, we don't want the debt. We do want the degree. We do want the education, but we also want like the university experience. And I wonder, like, it's in your name, campus, like that being on campus and being,
Yeah,
fully remote, like online. Like, how do you bridge that gap? Because not only do people go, as you know, well, no, not only do I go to school to get educated, to get prepared for the real world, and etc. in my work life, but I also it's my first time out of my parents' house. I'm starting to figure out who I am in the world. I'm meeting people from around the world who I never would have met otherwise.
100%.
Talk to me about that.
So campus is ultimately a trampoline into the top, schools students want to go to: Morehouse, UCLA, NYU. And so you can't make, a Morehouse man online. You just can't do it. My board chair is the former president of Morehouse University, Dr. John Wilson. Like, we talk about this all the time. It's like the principles that we instill in these young men, they do have to be there on campus, navigating all types of situations that are going to help refine them in terms of building out their integrity, refine them in terms of building out their sense of service. All these different things that, how do you instill these principles in young men? There does have to be an in-person component. So campus is just the first 2 years of college. Our vision is, and our students are coming to us because they want to start at campus, take no debt for the first 2 years, and then transfer. That's the cool thing about campus versus all these other uncollege MOOC type silly ideas in the past, but they were not accredited colleges, so you couldn't transfer. Great, you did 2 years on Coursera, start over. You did, you did 2 years, on college. Okay, you're a freshman. No, no, no. Campus, you do 2 years, you get your associate's degree, and then we help you transfer into Morehouse. We transfer two students into NYU, have been admitted to NYU already. Transfer into UCLA, and you're still going to get that residential experience. So again, to recap, I think live online is extremely crucial. It's helpful from an academic standpoint in that enables the students to actually do it from anywhere. So, stay tuned. You will see that the campus experience of being live online, we will actually take advantage of the fact that it's live online and enhance students' experience for those first 2 years, through international, through things that are possible in cities where we have high concentrations of students like New York and Atlanta. Number two, I think that transfer is crucial. This transfer is super crucial. Start a campus and then go to Morehouse, go to UCLA, go to NYU, and then lastly, I'll say one more benefit that is crucial to the learning experience being synchronous online is that the best professors may not live in your neighborhood. So what if you live in Valdosta, Georgia? There may not be the best professors in physics or AI or whatever the specific thing you're passionate about learning is. And so you shouldn't have to just learn from the best dude in Valdosta who may not be very good. You should be able to learn from the best person, period, who could be in Toledo, or somewhere else random across the country. And so the campus doing the learning online, and enhances, I think, the average quality of the instructors because you're not tied to any one geography. But if we can still get people together in a social setting in real life, then I think you'll actually bridge the gap on those things.
No, man. Finally, I'm interested in your thoughts on, when you build something like this, you're not necessarily, or at least necessarily talking about building wealth for yourself as a founder. You can work in other sectors and talk about, we're going to make a bunch of money, we're going to exit at these numbers, we're going to raise this much to go do that much, and talk about generational wealth. And my question to you is, how do you think as a founder about your opportunity to build wealth, why to do good while doing good? And do you see like this could be $1 billion opportunity for you, or like how do you think about it from a wealth generation for a founder, not for the students but for you?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the opportunity we're going after is so absurdly large that if we're successful, there's no way that you're not going to just build a great company. And if you own a meaningful piece of a great company, then obviously wealth comes with that. So to me, I think the mistake founders make when they're working in healthcare, when they're working in education, these industries where the customers and the impact you're having on society has to be the focus. is that they start thinking about the wealth in like a sort of tangible, specific way. I don't think you could think about it that way. I think you have to focus on solving this huge problem for society. And if you do solve it, the wealth will take care of itself. And so for me, that's the focus. Obviously, I own, a meaningful chunk of this thing. We have investors. Almost all of our investors are already billionaires. Sam Altman, Jason Citron, the founder of Discord, Michael Bloomberg and the Bloomberg Ventures team, Dylan Field, founder of Figma. These guys are not investing in campus to make more money. They're already billionaires. What are they going to do with more money? Buy another ping pong table? Like that's not the goal here. The goal here is to solve this massive problem for America. And then of course we all understand intuitively that if you do, make calling and texting over the internet super accessible, WhatsApp, or make it possible for people to rent out and monetize the spare rooms in their house, Airbnb, or connect people, with various cars and drivers at a cheaper than rate of a taxi at the push of a button on your phone, Uber, then of course you're going to end up just accidentally, just as a function of of the scale of the problem you solved, creating great wealth. And so to me, I don't think about it daily or monthly or quarterly or even probably not even annually. It's not like a focus. I think when people focus on it, they're gonna end up building something that's terrible, like the University of Phoenix, or like these other crappy uncollege things that have like. I don't think you can think about it that way. You have to think about what is the problem I'm trying to solve. Is this problem big enough? And Am I ambitious enough? I made that decision, 9 years ago to work on this. We turned 9 this August, and so that was when I thought about that, and now I'm just heads down trying to solve this problem.